Processing integrity. First, input controls. The quality of data that is collected and entered into the information system is vital. Okay, we have the following source data controls. Regulate the integrity of input first. Design. Source documents are designed to minimize errors. The source document could be pre-numbered, so it's very easy to find what is missing. And also we have turnaround documents. And turnaround documents is a record of company's data that is sent to external parties, so they're going to return the form and then enter it into the system. By doing that, we can minimize errors. Next, cancel documents that have been entered. For example, paper document should be defaced. Invoice will be stamped with a paid if invoice is paid, right? And source documents should be prepared by authorized person. And also source documents should be scanned for reasonableness before being entered into the system. And the following tests are used to validate input data. Okay? Just to talk about a few of them. For example, first, a field check. Field check determines if the characters in a field are of the proper type, right? And we can also do the sign check to check whether it's positive or negative or correct. So you can go through these tests to see what they are talking. Additional data entry controls. Batch processing. So batch processing works correctly only if transactions are pre-sorted to be in the same sequence as records in the master file. So we have a sequence check. Sequence check tests if a batch of input data is in the proper numerical or alphabetical sequence. Okay, we also have the batch total test. Very commonly used batch total test are financial total sum. Right? Financial total sums a field that contains dollar values, such as the total dollar amount of or sales for a batch of sales transaction. Or we can have the hash total, right, sums non-financial numerical field, such as the total of the quantity ordered field in a batch of sales transaction. Or just simply it's a record count, sums the number of records in a batch. Right, there are some online data entry controls. For example, prompting, right? System is going to prompt you for input. There's some online completeness check, right? And also have the closed loop verification. It's going to check the accuracy of input data by using it to retrieve and display other related information. Right? For example, when you input home address when you order online, right? The system very likely is going to check the your home address. And they're going to retrieve your home address from their database. Creating a transaction log. The transaction log includes a detailed record of all transaction data. So if the data is damaged, right? An online file is damaged, for example, then the transaction log can be used to reconstruct the file. So these are all the input control. And let's talk about processing controls. So these are controls that's going to ensure that data are processed correctly. First, data matching. So two or more items must be matched before an action takes place. Right, for example, the system is going to verify that the number in vendor's invoice is going to match the purchase order and also the receiving report, right? The typical data matching. Next is file labels. File labels need to be checked to ensure that the correct and the most current files are being updated. The two important types of internal labels are header and the trailer records. The header records is located at the beginning of each file and contains the file name, expiration date, and other identification data. Then the trailer record is located at the end of the file and contains the batch total calculated during input. Recalculation of batch total. Batch total can be recomputed as each transaction record is processed and compared to the values in the trailer records. Cross-footing. Cross-footing verifies accuracy by comparing two alternative ways of calculating the same total. Right, one example is we calculate total in Excel. Right, we can calculate first a total from a subtotal from a line. Okay, then we add all these subtotal in the column. Then we have a total number. Or we're going to do the other way. We calculate subtotal for each column, then I'm going to add them in a line and get total. Right? This is called a cross-footing. Right, the zero balance test can be explained with the T accounting. Right, the total debit equals total credit, then the account will be has a zero balance. The write protection mechanisms protect against overwriting or erasing data. And then finally, the concurrent update controls. Okay, protect records from errors that occur when two or more users attempt to update the same record simultaneously. Right, this is important because now all the databases are online, so everyone can making changes in the database. But if two persons are changing the same data, then there will be a problem. So there must be some controls that prevent two persons simultaneously do the same thing. Right, so these are processing controls. And then we have the output controls. Careful checking of system output provides additional control. over processing integrities. Some of those important output controls include, right, user view of output. So the user should carefully examine system output for reasonableness, completeness, and they are the intended receipt. Okay, we also have the reconciliation procedures, right? So these are the procedures we use to reconcile to control reports. For example, the general ledger accounts receivable account is reconciled to accounts receivable subsidiary ledgers. External data reconciliation. The database total should periodically be reconciled with data maintained outside the system. Right? For example, the number of employee records in the payroll file should be compared with the total from human resources to detect errors, basically. Data transmission control. So files are transmitted in the network. So to make sure the file received is the same as the file they send, we need to have the data transmission controls. Right? We have the checksum. Checksum use hash of a file to verify accuracy. So we have talked about hash already. So here the idea is very similar with a digital signature. Right? And also we have the parity bit controls. So data are represented in computers in a set of binary digits. We call it bits. So it's a 0, 1, 1, 0, these kind of things. So when data are transmitted, some bits may be lost or received incorrectly due to media disruption or failures. So to detect these type of errors, usually we put an extra digit called a parity bit. I'm going to add an extra digit to every character. For example, the way we present the digit 5, right, in computer in a binary format, it is 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1. Right? It's a binary format. So that's 7-bit. We can add the 8th bit, okay, to each character to serve as a parity bit. All right. So we move to the next topic. That's availability. Right, availability is the 5th component of the trust service, the framework. Basically, availability says that system and its information are available to meet operational and contractual obligations. Okay. So we're going to minimize the risk of system downtime. There are several ways to do that. For example, we can use a redundant component, such as a redundant array of independent hard drivers, also known as RAID, R-A-I-D. It's going to provide us better fault tolerance. Basically, RAID is several hard disks is going to be running together. Okay, if I store data into a hard disk, it's going to be written to these hard drivers simultaneously. So it's going to provide us a very good fault tolerance. If one of the hard driver is damaged, it's okay. We have other hard driver containing the same information. UPS, the uninterruptible power supply, is also going to help. It provides protection in the event of prolonged power outage. Recovery. So management must answer two questions relating to the risk of system downtime. How much data are we willing to recreate from a source document? Okay, if the data is damaged, or if we have a system downtime, are we willing to spend a lot of time re-entering all the data? Okay. And then how long? Next question is, how long can our company function without its information system? Okay, these are two important questions. So these measures the risk tolerance of the company, right? The how much data we are willing to re-enter is known as recovery point objectives, RPO, right? So if we can recreate. It's okay for us to recreate data from source document. We have a higher RPO. Okay. And on the other hand, if we cannot do that, right? It's too costly to re-enter. Then we have a low RPO. If we have a low RPO, okay, we need more frequent backups. Okay. And if we can live, long for a long period without information system, we say the recovery time object is high. Otherwise, the recovery time object will be low. So if we have a low RPO and low RTO, then we have to really consider our backup plans seriously. Let's talk about data backup procedures. Okay, basically there are two types of backup. We have the full backup. So we're gonna have the exact copy of the entire database. That's a full backup. Okay, full backup will take longer to copy the data, right? And it takes more space to store the data, right? And also we have the partial backup. And partial backup, we have incremental backup. Incremental backup involves copy only the data item that have changed since the last partial backup. So this produces a set of incremental backup files. Okay, for example, each incremental backup files contains the results of one day's transaction. Okay, so every day's data become a incremental backup files. So together, this incremental backup together with a full backup is to give company a good the backup plan. Right? Basically, the company is going to do weekly full backup, and then during the week there is daily incremental backup. So if the system is down, during the week, it's not that difficult to restore the system, because we're gonna load up the copy of the last weekly full backup together with a few days incremental partial backup, and we're gonna have the system back. Another type of partial backup is a differential backup. Okay, so instead of having an individual daily incremental backup, differential backup is going to have the cumulative effects of all activity since the last full backup. Right, the differential backup takes a little bit longer than incremental backup because it's going to scan the data from the first day of the week, right? But the benefit is restoration is simpler. Just to load the differential backup instead of loading all the incremental backups. Duplication. Duplication is a process that uses hashing to identify and backup only those portions of a file or database that have been updated since last backup. So most of the modern backup software is using the duplication procedures. Right? Basically, the duplication procedures is going to use hashing. So if we do not change, if we haven't updated anything in the file, right, then the hashing should, and if we use the same algorithm to hash, the hashing should be the same. So the system is not going to update that file. But if we modify the file, the hashing will be different. Then the system is going to update basically and back up that part of the file. And typically a large file will be divided into pieces, right? And each piece is going to have a hashing. If there's no modification, no update, the hashing of that small piece will be the same, and those backup will not be touched. Only the modified files will be backed up. So it's very efficient with hashing technology. So no matter which backup procedures we have, multiple backup copies should be created. So one copy can be stored on site, okay, and we need to also store copies in other places. The purpose of backup is to enable restoration of data in the event that original copy become inaccessible, right? We have seen that during the 9/11 attack, and many companies restored their data in a very short period. And backup files will be kept for a short period, and sometimes we need to send those backups to an archive. Right? An archive will be kept for a long period. Disaster recovery plans, DRP. Backup are designed to mitigate problems with system down, right? Or system corruption. While the disaster recovery plans are used to mitigate more serious problems. So disaster recovery plan should outline the procedures to restore organization's IT function in the event that its data center is destroyed. Right, we have several plans. Right, cold site, hot site, and real-time mirroring. Right, basically the cold site is a disaster recovery option that we have alternative facility ready for use, pre-wired, but does not contain any computing equipment. It's called cold site. So it takes some time to recover with a cold site. Right? The benefit is the cost is lower. We can also have a hot site. This is an option that we're going to have a completely operational alternative data center. Okay, so it's ready for use in case our original data center is destroyed. But the cost, it's costly, right, to maintain a hot site. And in more recent years, we have a third option, it's real-time mirroring. Right, so we're going to maintain 2 copies or more copies of data at several data centers at all times, and updating all databases in real time as each transaction occurs. This is a modern technology. So among the 3 options, right, obviously the real-time mirroring is the best choice if your RPO and RTO are really small, okay, close to 0, if you have no tolerance. So better to use the real-time mirroring. But if some organizations can tolerate a little bit, they can choose either the cold or hot site options. So DRP focuses on how to resume IT operations. And we also have a business continuity plan. BCP specifies how to resume all business processes, right, including relocating to new offices and hiring temporarily workers in the event of major calamity. So that's a business continuity plan. Alright, we have some more tests. Alright, this is pretty much for lecture 5.